Dean Kaczynski, Township Manager, Doug Roussillon, Township Clerk, Kristen DeNorcia, Deputy Township Clerk, Thomas Rowe, Deputy Township Manager, Scott Salmon, Township Attorney, and Ron Goodman, Volunteer Cablecaster. For the public's information, we are currently holding a hybrid format meeting. We have people in person and on Zoom. If our Wi-Fi at the municipal building has an issue where the Zoom meeting drops, we will aim to retrieve the connection and restart the meeting. The next televised regular council meeting will take place on Tuesday, September 5th at 6:30 p.m. The public portion of that meeting will begin at 8 p.m. Township offices will be closed on Monday, September 4th in observance of Labor Day. Council met in closed session earlier this evening to discuss the following: BLM Bryant commemoration murals, cannabis, 1084 Queen Anne Road, short-term rentals, the DPW project, Teaneck Southern Little League, vape shops, labor contracts, the Votee Park Pool, the Township Charter and Administrative Code, Athletic Fields of America, PSE&G, Richard Rhoda summer programs, legal issues and opinions regarding items on the open session agenda, litigation updates, and Oprah. Before we continue the meeting, can everyone please join us in a brief moment of silence for New Jersey Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, who tragically passed away last week. Please bow your heads. Thank you. Our next order of business is presentations, and we get to honor Solomon Itzkowitz, who is the leader of the Bergen County Faverum, which is a wonderful organization that helps a lot of people in Teaneck and throughout the county. Councilwoman Organ, would you like to lead us in this presentation, ma'am? All right, she's on her way. Perfect. Solomon, you want to come up?
Hi, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to Saul Itzkowitz. He is the coordinator, one of the coordinators of Bergen County Faverum. About, I don't know, 6 months ago, I was lying in bed one night with my telephone, looking at social media, and Cheryl Hall, I don't know how many posts ago that was for her, but many, was at Stop and Shop, and her car had broken down and she needed a jump and she couldn't get a jump. So I took my phone and I called Saul, and I can't tell you how many Better Call Saul jokes we've had in our house since then. And a few minutes later, two wonderful men showed up in the parking lot, jumped her car, were nice to her, took care of her, gave her advice on what to do with her car. And I'm lying there that night. I said, I need to nominate Saul and Faverum for Congressman Gottheimer's Bergen County 5th Congressional District Hometown Hero Award. For anybody that has not had the opportunity to attend one of these awards, they are wonderful. I think he does them twice a year. It's 2 hours of people in town with love and admiration and hugs and pictures, talking about the people that make their town special, heroic acts, volunteerism, so many stories. There was a dog that worked with the police that had passed away, a canine officer that passed away, and really stories of people running into the World Trade Center during September 11th. It's just a wonderful day. So I would love to read the nomination written by my husband, Eric, who won last year as part of TVAC, and myself, and to thank all the members of Faverum who are here. Many of us find ourselves in a difficult situation at some time or another, and it is comforting to have someone to rely on in a time of need. Faverum, from the Hebrew word friend or companion of Bergen County, has been that friend to so many in a variety of different ways. Whether it's a flat tire, a dead car battery, being locked out of a home or car, at times with a young child inside, or a vehicle that ran out of gas, Faverum is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, responding to calls within minutes. Their dedicated team of volunteers is always ready to jump into action and help. Faverum of Teaneck was initially formed approximately 10 years ago, with a few members responding to a small handful of calls per year. In 2021, Faverum of Teaneck was transformed to Faverum of Bergen County, with Saul Itzkowitz, a Teaneck resident, as its leader. In the past year, over 80 volunteers have responded to more than 3,000 calls for help. Faverum does not charge for their services, and their members do not receive any financial compensation. The organization is solely funded by donations which go to training as well as procuring equipment, allowing Chaverim to meet the needs of the community in an ever-expanding way. Aside from the routine calls for service, Chaverim of Bergen County assists in emergency situations, often partnering with Teanac's frontline emergency service providers, including the Teaneck Police Department, the Teaneck Fire Department, and the Teaneck Volunteer Ambulance Corps. They have assisted in the evacuation of people trapped in cars and buildings during serious flooding, have helped people whose basements have been flooded by burst pipes, and have been part of search parties for missing children and impaired adults. Here are just a few of the outstanding services Saul Itzkowitz and Chaverim of Bergen County have provided. Earlier this year, the PSC&G substation located on Palisade Avenue caught fire, resulting in electric power being cut off to thousands of Teaneck residents. Chaverim of Bergen County immediately responded to numerous residents and delivered 75 gas-powered generators to homes, helping to keep lights on, refrigerators and freezers running, and medical equipment operating. And this isn't a plug for funding for them. This is just what they do. Just last month, Teaneck experienced, and this was written before, so a few months ago, Teaneck experienced a storm which brought significant amounts of rain in a short period of time. Many houses in the area of Sagamore Park began to take on water and become flooded. When the call for help came out, Chaverim of Bergen County's members responded to dozens of homes throughout the night and even the following day after the rain subsided to pump out basements and assist in the remediation of the flooding the residents experienced. And last year, Bergenfield Police received a call for a missing 4-year-old child. Bergenfield Police and the Bergenfield Volunteer Ambulance Corps, along with Teaneck Police and the Teaneck Volunteer Ambulance Corps, provided mutual aid to Bergenfield, responded to search for the child. Chaverim of Bergen County was requested by the Bergenfield Office of Emergency Management and responded with dozens of members to partner in the search. Through a coordinated and cooperative effort amongst the responding agencies, the child was found safe. At a time when volunteerism is declining, Chaverim of Bergen County continues to grow and expand. They serve Teaneck with selflessness in a 100% volunteer capacity. Since their founding, they have accomplished their goal of helping everyone, regardless of religion, race, gender, or ethnicity. Saul Itzkowitz and the volunteers of Chaverim of Bergen County exemplify what it means to be a hero. And on behalf of the Mayor and Council of Teaneck, I'd like to thank you for all that you all do and will continue to do for the residents of Teaneck. And so here is our certificate, Teaneck Township Council Certificate of Recognition to Saul Itzkowitz, Bergen County Chaverim, recipient of Congressman Josh Gottheimer's 2023 5th Congressional District Hometown Hero Award. So thank you for all that you do, all of you.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yeah, I'm just to jump right in and thank you very much, Councilman Organ. The name may sound maybe a Hebrew name, but the services are open to the entire community, and the entire community has used them. And if you do know anyone that's in need, the short way of saying this, and please don't take this the wrong way, but for those who don't know what they do, call it a free AAA. It's a free AAA squared, not to demean that because that could be demeaning, but more to get the community involvement. So if you know anyone that needs help in any way, shape, or form, please reach out to them. And it is not meant for any one part of the community whatsoever at all. So please reach out to them. Saul, would you mind just, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, please.
the phone number? 201-800-HELP. 201-800-HELP. My family definitely knows that number, especially my daughters. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. Belcher?
Yes, I just want to thank the organization for all that you do in the community. Thank you for your willingness to help, freely, all individuals. And thank you for, and I respect the fact that you're honored tonight to be a part of this recognition. So thank you. Thank you very much for your help.
Deputy Mayor G?
I want to echo the comments from my colleagues. You are, I had the pleasure of meeting Saul and a number of volunteers early in this year when I attended one of your meetings. And honestly, I had not heard of Chaverim before I went to that meeting. And so I think you're Teaneck's best kept secret for some residents. And I'm just so grateful for all that you do for the community. And I'm going to continue to spread the word about you and how great, you the volunteers are in your services to the community. So thank you. You definitely deserve this award.
Councilwoman Goldberg?
Yeah, I just want to, echo what everyone else is saying. Chaverim is amazing as an organization. I can personally say that, I mean, it's been a very crazy summer for me, but not 2 months ago. Unfortunately, I had a very long hospital stay for my child, and it was a holiday and my family couldn't be reached. And someone said to me, "You need to get some food." And my first call was Chaverim, and my brother goes, "I think they're shopping for you." And there was like 3 shopping bags, and my son wasn't very conscious, but when he woke up, he was very excited with all the candy, and it was amazing. I mean, there was no question about it. And you were there within 5 seconds, and it was something so small and so simple, but it was amazing. And I won't forget that. And you guys, to Deputy Mayor G's point, are there for the whole community. And everyone should be incredibly thankful for everything that you do and continue to do for the community.
Mr. Katz?
Yeah, I'll just repeat something that I said to the members at your dinner, which was a few years ago, you really weren't even in existence and people didn't know about you. And now people are really relying on you and can't do without you. So, I know that that's a lot of responsibility, but you do it well. It's amazing the different aspects that you handle, from floods to search and rescues to everything in between, like shopping. So Teaneck is very fortunate to have you. So thank you very much for all your hard work and your dedication.
Sal, you're an incredible human being. Your organization is an incredible group of people. I was at the ceremony, so well deserved. Just to point out, we also gave a certificate of appreciation to the organization a few weeks ago. Hope you guys got that. And I can't thank you enough, because you guys help so many people. And that video you did is incredible. I've shared that with everyone. I know that a lot of other people throughout town have shared that with a lot of other people. So thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you so much to Haverim for everything that you guys do. And God bless you guys. Thank you. Our next order of business under presentations comes to us from the Teaneck League of Women Voters, discussing the New Jersey Green Amendment. Barbara Ostroff, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay. Hello. To start off with, the resolution, I believe, is part of your agenda, and those of you up on the dais have already received it. I will leave a copy here if anybody wants to take a look at it. I'm here on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Teaneck, but also the League of Women Voters of Bergen County, of which I am an active member. The state of New Jersey is facing a historic opportunity, the passage of a constitutional amendment that will recognize the right to clean water, clean air, and a healthy environment. It is commonly thought that New Jersey's residents already have a right to clean water, clean air, and a healthy environment, but that is simply not the case. While there are laws that work to manage environmental pollution and degradation, they do not recognize the inalienable right to a healthy environment, and as a result, environmental protection is not given the highest legal protection available under the law. In New Jersey, the right to free speech, freedom of religion, and other freedoms are protected as fundamental rights in the state constitution. But New Jersey has no constitutional provision protecting environmental rights in the state. For decades, the people of New Jersey have relied on federal and state legislation to protect their natural resources. And for decades, the laws have let them down. New Jersey water, air, forests, and other special places from the highlands to the pinelands have been allowed to degrade in ways that are harming people's lives. A constitutional provision could help change that. We have a number of laws such as the Clean Water Act, Freshwater Wetlands Act, etc. But too often the enforcement is compromised by unregulated industries or relaxed in the face of political pressure. Bottom line, both major political parties are guilty of this. Let's join the many New Jersey communities, not only in Bergen County, and I do want to point out that Fairlawn and Ridgewood are ahead of us. They've already passed this amendment, and 15 others, to our knowledge, have it already on their agendas for support. But it is also being considered by councils around the state who are urging our state legislators to do their jobs by adding these important protections to our state constitution. I have a copy of my remarks, which I will give to the town clerk. And I just, urge you to move this forward tonight because what we really want to do, and the resolution says this, is to make sure that the state legislators support this in time to put it on the ballot for November so that the people of New Jersey can vote on whether or not this amendment to the Constitution can be supported and added.
Thank you, Ms. Ostroff. I have this listed under council listed items because I'm going to make a motion later to add it to the consent agenda. But does anyone on council have any questions for Ms. Ostroff before we proceed? No? Ms. Ostroff, thank you so
All right,
much.
And just as a side note, because I always have a side note. The petitions for Board of Education for this year are now finalized. The deadline was July 31st. There are 6 candidates, and the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum has been scheduled for Monday, October 2nd. Put that on your calendar.
Thank you, Ms.
Can
Ostroff.
I actually ask a question about
Of
that?
course, please.
Is it possible, would it be possible, the petition deadline came very quickly for me. I heard about it from some people, not that I was looking to run for the Board of Education, but would it be something that maybe the League of Women Voters could share on social media each year, a couple of weeks before
We did.
petitions are due? You did? Because
We
I
did.
didn't see. Oh,
We
okay.
did.
Okay.
Believe
Thank
me,
you.
I woke up July 14th and said, where the heck is this announcement?
Okay. So it was out.
And it was quickly spread far and wide.
Okay.
So, it is always the last week, the last day of July is the petition deadline. And, the link was posted everywhere. And, we have, 6 candidates, which is a great thing for 3 spots.
Okay.
Okay?
Good luck
But
to
thank
all.
you.
Okay.
All
Thank you, Ms. Ostroff. Next on the agenda is the CSX Railway Safety Update Presentation. Mr. Manager, the floor is yours, sir.
I'll get that one too. Get started. Everyone see okay? In attendance is our OEM coordinator, Larry Robertson. Larry is a retired deputy fire chief as well, our township historian. Knows a lot about TNAC. To my left is our deputy OEM coordinator, Tom Smith, also a retired chief. And we have our fire chief, Joe Birchtold, and we have from the county OEM director, Matt, tonight, I put you on the spot a little bit. And last, I want to introduce my intern. I brought him on a couple of weeks ago, Max Adams. Raise your hand, Max. Yes. Max is in his 2nd year at NYU Civil Engineering. He was a big help in doing some of the graphics with PowerPoint, which I'm not good with. So I just want to thank him. And who's going to be Ron? You're going to be running? Doug will. Okay. So I wanted to get this PowerPoint together just to show council and the public some of the things that took place on July 10th, as well as some of the history of CSX and the township's preparedness, so everyone has a clear understanding. Thank you, Max. Figured that would get everybody's attention. So there you go. You get heating, cooking, as well as I mentioned kerosene as blasting powder for stump removal. There's 2 notable incidents. I know this only says 1, but there were 2 notable incidents, rail incidents. Doug, you able to? 2 notable incidents in Teaneck. One dates back 100 years, and our town historian had told me about this, and it had to do with an incident that took place by the old soap factory, Stanson Chemical. And that had to do with a vandalism to a switch, railroad switch, which caused a derailment. And the other one I didn't put up here was back in 1977 that involved ammonia being leaked from a rail car. And again, that was back in 1977. So those are the two notable incidents with CSX and TNEC. All right. In 57, we date back to 1957, residents were concerned that tank cars containing hydrogen cyanide were traveling through Teaneck. This was brought to our attention. In 1977, the Teaneck Fire Department created, because of this, evacuation maps, including 2,500-foot parallel lines, which is the current standard. Next slide, Doug. The Teaneck Volunteer Ambulance Corps conducted a mass casualty drill, and that was postulating a hazmat tank car explosion. So they've done some training. Next slide, Doug. And in the 90s, we move forward to the 1990s because of industrial alcohol was passing through Teaneck. CSX provided a 1,500-gallon foam trailer from the municipality or for the municipality. Firefighters from Teaneck were sent to classes in New Mexico and to Georgia to prepare for large flammable liquid incidents. Next slide, Doug. And Teaneck took possession of a larger 3,000-gallon foam tank truck, which is currently stationed at our firehouse. We have the benefit of having this in Teaneck in the event of any sort of rail emergency. Moving forward to 2017, back in crude unit trains traveling through Teaneck, we developed scale aerial maps and photographs of township life hazard uses, imported daycare facility, group homes, schools, medical facilities, houses of worship on these maps. And this was done by OEM and the Teaneck Fire Department. And then in, actually, I'm moving ahead a little bit, but back, let me date back to 2015. Council adopted Resolution 237, 2015. And that was on September 8th, requesting appropriate authorities such as Congress, USDOT, Federal Railroad to regulate the idling and parking of trains in Teaneck. And then on September 14, 2015, a letter was sent to CSX Corporation requesting security if trains are being parked and idled in Teaneck. Next slide, Doug. Again, our OEM and the Teaneck Fire Department gave classes to life hazard facilities and managers of the general public and the general public. They continue to do that to date. Teaneck Fire Department and TVAC received additional training. The township participated in various tabletop and practical exercises at the Bergen County Law Public Safety Facility and at the County Administrative Building, which I attended in 2015. That was sponsored by County Executive Jim Tedesco. The township installed a public mass notification system. We have 11 siren towers in town. That serves to improve evacuation communications. Those systems are tested daily. We do have a base station by my office. The police department has one and the fire department has one. Again, they're tested daily and they remain available. We do the annual testing in June of every year. We just conducted one about a month and a half ago. Everything seems to be working properly. The township also dedicates 3 pages to informational pages to emergency preparedness. And that's in the Teaneck Times, which is distributed the beginning of every new year. There's an information guide that tells residents how to prepare for catastrophic events, rail emergencies. So we do produce and put out a lot of information, and that can also be found on the township's website. And most recently, the town, we added an Office of Emergency Management tab on our website, and the information can be found under the Residents tab. And if you go to www.teanecknj.gov and hit the Residents tab, you'll see a URL for OEM, and that provides some excellent information for our residents for preparedness. We have, as everyone knows, we have various networking resources in place to communicate with the public. We have, of course, the Nixle messaging. We have the reverse 911 robocalls. We have blast email. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. And again, I say this all the time. I encourage any resident who is not signed up, please sign up. You can go to our homepage. There's a tab on the left-hand side. The first one, I believe, says sign up for TNEC alerts. It's easy to do. Everyone knows I send out a lot of messages, and that's how I really communicate on an emergency basis with residents to produce those important messages. And as always, the residents are the eyes and ears for reporting suspicious activity. So don't ever hesitate if you see something suspicious, and if you see something, of course, say something. Next slide, Doug. So from January 1st of 2023 to the present time, there was only one call that involved a complaint related to the trains. There were actually no idling of train complaints that the police department received. And next slide, Doug. And this is a little bit of the history leading up to the July 10th, 2023 meeting with CSX and the 10 other municipalities that run along the river line. So on February 27th, CSX was contacted by my office to provide information about expanding, they call them defect detectors every 3 miles due to that recent rail accident in Ohio. Next slide. On March 15th, I received a point of contact from CSX, and I left a message for a callback for them to reach out to me. On April 18th, CSX was contacted again for meeting purposes. I tried to stay on top of this the best I could. On May 4th, I spoke to a gentleman named Matt Korn. He's the head of investor relations regarding a possible roundtable discussion with administrators, mayors, OEM staff, police and fire representatives from the 11 municipalities, including TNEC, that run along the river line. On May 8th, I received a call. Some people in the room know this gentleman, Rodney Oglesby. He's the CSX Director of State Relations for this region, to call him about setting up this meeting. Then on May 23rd, I sent an email to Mr. Oglesby as a reminder to provide a meeting date, trying to stay on top of this again. May 25th, Mr. Oglesby provided me with several dates in June and July in order to coordinate with his Director of Hazmat and Safety. And then CSX ultimately confirmed the meeting date for Monday, July 10th. I sent out letters to the mayors of Richfield Park, Pagoda, Bergenfield, Dumont, Haworth, Gloucester, Harrington Park, Norwood, and Northvale, inviting them to the July 10th meeting. And again, this meeting was open to police, fire, OEM, and municipal administrators from those municipalities along the river line. So on July 10th, we had the meeting, and present again were various reps from the 11 municipalities, some mayors, police staff, fire, and OEM administrators. Present from CSX was Dave Schoons. He's the senior manager of hazmat for CSX. Arthur Beekman, he's a senior special agent in charge of CSX Railroad Police in our division. Robert Rohauer, he's the senior manager of strategic projects and community affairs for this region. And of course, Rodney Oglesby, who I mentioned, was the director of state relations for CSX. Some of the dialogue information that came out of this meeting, again, as I think most people know, CSX is based out of Jacksonville, Florida. They've been in existence almost 200 years. They connect every major metropolitan area in the eastern United States. CSX increased its annual investment on core infrastructure, which was good news. They'll spend, they estimate, $1.7 billion on track, bridge, and signal projects in 2023. We were told they updated hot bearing detectors across all its rail network with connectivity to facilitate remote monitoring. HPD technology is more effective in detecting the overheated rail car wheel bearings, again, which is good news with this technology. The units are inspected every 2 weeks to ensure optimal performance. The HPDs are deployed every 15.1 miles along key routes and 16.2 miles along CSX routes. They're telling us 53 additional HPDs will be installed in 2023. extending coverage to ensure the detectors are in place every 14.3 miles along key routes and 14.9 miles along CSX routes. CSX also updated acoustic bearing detectors to assist with safety inspections, and these are used to analyze the acoustic signature inside the bearing to identify potential issues. They also have automated train inspection portals, and they have been installed on high-volume main lines. And they're used to perform a 360-degree inspections on moving trains, and they use high-resolution imaging technology. They call it the TIPS. They're able to detect defects as the train is actually in motion. They also have autonomous track assessment cars, and they're used to gather critical information and data on track conditions. And this data is actually sent in real time for assessment and expedited track repair when needed. The ATACs travel across the entire CSX network. And they also developed an extensive drone safety program to perform many tasks, including aerial mapping of yards, facility inspections, storm response, accident investigation, and they also used it for law enforcement. They also hired 2,000 additional conductors in 2022. Moving on with some of the dialogue information. Risk assessment technology is used to determine the shortest and safest routes to transport goods categorized as hazardous. They also sponsor and hold hazardous materials training for our first responders, contractors, and local government officials. In 2022, they held 40 training events for those officials. Ethanol and alcohol right now is the most dangerous product being transported along the river line. Back and oil is no longer transported on the East Coast. Standard crew on a train, this question was asked, is an engineer and a conductor. On occasion, it may be a third crew member. They do reach a maximum speed of 50 miles per hour, but that's not in all areas. And the average train is roughly 100 cars. The standard of rail car plan in place that provides, they do have a standard rail car in place that provides short and long-term displacement program, which is good. They said they're constantly changing these rail cars every year. The rail safety, so that everyone knows, the rail safety is controlled at the federal level. CSX is also rolling out a training guide on community awareness in 2024 that will be made available to everyone. They're completing state-of-the-art outreach trailers for firehouses. And there's an Ask Rail app for a smartphone that our first responders do use. The app provides nearly 50,000 first responders from 49 states, including the District of Columbia and 8 Canadian provinces, with immediate access to accurate, timely data about what type of hazardous materials a rail car is carrying, so they can make an informed decision about how to respond to rail emergencies. So this app is very helpful. Some current legislation, federal statute 49 USC 10501B. This provides that state, county, and municipal actions that everyone is aware are federally preempted as applied to rail carriers if such actions would have a serious adverse effect on the rail carrier's interstate rail operation. So, we can pass as many resolutions, ordinances that we want, but we're basically, because of this federal law, preempted to applying that to CSX. Some additional pending legislation is 2 bills pending in the state legislature that addresses rail safety. That was not passed before their recent recess. They will be considering that in the fall. One bill requires operators of high hazard trains to provide an emergency response and cleanup plan to the state DEP, and the plan would be shared with local officials. This bill was held up because of a disagreement over what information about materials carried by rail is shared and how it's shared. A bill was vetoed in 2017 that would have provided local emergency responders with more information on trains traveling through communities. I believe that was sponsored by Senator Weinberg. A current bill sponsored by Senator Johnson is going to place limits on the length of trains and require the detectors along the tracks and 2-person crews on trains carrying hazardous materials. And Congressman Gottheimer has proposed a federal rail safety bill, which should move forward. sometime this fall, and it provides more regulations for trains carrying hazardous materials. So our local legislators are doing everything possible to improve rail safety. Hopefully, some of these bills can get passed. Next slide, Doug. Some evacuation tips, and I'll have Larry, Matt, and Tom up here in a minute, and the fire chief. Some of the evacuation tips we post in our Teaneck Times is to have a go kit ready, and that can be found on page 7 of the Teaneck Times. And also, again, as I mentioned, is a lot of information on rail car emergency preparedness. Just some tips on evacuation as well. Again, see page 7 of the Teaneck Times. Prepare leaving for your home 10 minutes in 10 minutes or less. Again, we emphasize practice, practice, practice. We never think this is going to happen, but it could happen in our area with the volume of trains up and down that river line. If you reside on the east side of the tracks, you're going to leave east in the event of an evacuation. If you live on the west side of the railroad tracks, you're obviously going to drive away from the tracks in a westerly direction. Always remain calm and follow evacuation messages via the mass notification system. That can be done by the siren towers, robocalls, Nixle, and through our local first responders. Again, it's important to realize all rail incidents are not the same. There's many different variables which are handled differently based on the circumstances. Next slide, Doug. And on January 1st of this year, the township opened its state-of-the-art public safety answering point system for 911 emergency calls. And this, of course, is staffed 24/7 by our police telecommunicators. And I just want to bring up Larry Robinson, our OEM coordinator, and Lieutenant, can you come up as well and just say a few words as far as resources that the county has for us in the event, and how you prepare for these type of incidents, rail car incidents? Come up here. Don't be shy. Not to put you on the spot.
Larry, you want to? So Bergen County Office of Emergency Management works, hand in hand with the Teaneck Office of Emergency Management and all of our other police, fire, and EMS partners. We do an all hazards planning approach. So we're not planning for the particular car carrying a particular substance at a particular place on the rail line. Our plans go across a wide variety of incidents, and it can be applied specifically to the rail incident, at the location with the current material that's there. That being said, we like to do things on sunny days in preparedness, such as the meeting that Dean had with CSX. We like to make sure that we know all the partners that are involved with the companies that we deal with, so that when we meet these people at 2:30 in the morning, when it's dark outside, we all know what everybody's responsibilities are. We all know what everybody brings to the table, and we all make sure that we do our part to make sure that we prioritize life safety and property.
Teaneck Emergency Services are not a stranger to this issue. I grew up 300 feet from the railroad tracks. I still live there. In the 50s, we were notified about the hydrogen cyanide cars going by. My parents told me something that applies to everybody. If something happens on the railroad, get out and keep going. Don't change clothes, don't gather up stuff, just go. There's no way to make a detailed evacuation plan because we have a 3-mile long rail line, and we have a variety of chemicals, a variety of hazards. The only evacuation plan that makes any sense is know which way to go, which is away from the tracks. When I got promoted to lieutenant in the fire department in 1977, I drew an evacuation map that has been updated with scale aerial photographs. But the biggest important thing is the citizens have to know if we tell them to get out, get out. No delay, no baloney, go.
Good evening, Chief Joseph Birchall, Teaneck Fire Department. Yes, we are always prepared. We're always planning. We're always drilling for the inevitable. What the inevitable will be, we never do know, but we take our rail cargo that goes through Teaneck very seriously. We dedicate several hours, several days, and sometimes several months working on, drilling on, preparing for the inevitable. Like I can reiterate, just like you should be preparing with your smoke detectors in your home, right? Everybody should have a smoke detector. If you're changing the batteries, you should be practicing that evacuation drill. The same holds true for a rail car. You're only gonna have a few minutes. You got to get your stuff. You got to leave. It's up to you, the individual. You have to practice. If you're not practicing, then there's not much more we can do for you. You know, we're gonna do our best. We're gonna show up. We have multiple resources at hand that we can quickly dispatch. We belong to a mutual aid network that we can easily have multiple and many towns here. We have coordinated partners through OEM, through police agencies, fire, the Office of Emergency Management. So we will be able to get resources coming here to solve the problem pretty quickly. But the best thing the residents need to do is leave. When we order the evacuation, you need to get out quickly.
I think Teaneck is very well prepared. I think we do more than most municipalities do as far as providing information to our residents, whether it's through the Teaneck Times or training with our fire safety and police department and OEM. So I'm confident, you know, the town is in good hands with the professionals that that we have. And while they're here, if council has any questions of them, please ask.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Does anyone on council have any questions? Ms. Belcher?
I'm kind of interested in what Larry kind of talked about. When you speak about if there's an issue, leave, okay, when we talk about leaving, just in terms of our residents leaving or knowing where to go. When you say evacuate and leave, are we saying go east, go west, go at least 3 miles away? I mean, just in case you have residents that haven't had the benefit of really kind of looking at the website, if you were to speak to that map that you put together, where would you say residents should go?
The federal standard is 2,500 feet, half a mile, 800 meters, go that way. A lot of people can't figure that out. They're not familiar with measurements like that. So the best thing is get out of Teaneck. If you live west of the railroad, go into Hackensack, go into River Edge. If you live east of the railroad, go into Englewood, go into Leonia. And you can't map this out because a 3 mile long train line could have that incident anywhere. Could be at the foot of Kip Street, could be at the foot of Livingston Place. We don't know. So the best thing to do is move to, if you're west of the tracks, get out of Teaneck to the west. If you're east of the tracks, get out of Teaneck to the east.
Thank you, Larry. Ms. Goldberg, you have a question, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Manager, for the presentation. I just had one quick question. How can we proactively work together with the governing bodies of the other towns along the track on the safety issues and to advocate to the state and federal officials to protect the residents?
Okay, the manager arranged a meeting on July 10th that really invited this topic. Some of the towns are very proactive, some not so much. I can't explain that. I'm not responsible for them. We do have very strong mutual aid, fire, police, and ambulance. That's every day. That's not just for one event. And hopefully that will carry through if the rail incident happens. Would it be better if we had reception areas for people evacuated in other places? We tried to set that up. We got no response from our neighbors. So if you have some contacts with some of the surrounding towns, maybe that would be a good thing to work on. We ran into a dead end with that.
So kind of to coordinate some of these grills. I know we've done tabletops, and that's been coordinated by your office and the county executive as well. So he does play a big role in this, as the director of county OEM and getting these resources together, getting these municipalities together. But as Larry said, you know, some are interested, some are not interested.
I have a question real quick then. Okay. Can you please elaborate on the communications and the plans that you have for the 4 to 5 schools in the proximity of the rail line?
Plan for the schools in the proximity of the rail line.
Oh, we have a good relationship with the public school. We've also tried to reach out to the private and religious schools. We had a program where we had classes for the people in charge of schools, daycare centers, medical facilities and stuff within a half mile of the tracks. That got kind of downplayed by the COVID regulation. We still make that program available, and all they have to do is contact us, and we'll come and give them a class. We'll show them the map. We'll show them where they'd have to go. But unfortunately, with all public safety issues, the issue is always there's so much attention on everything else. You know, we're talking active shooter, we're talking building fire, we're talking disease. All those things are important, and we're competing with them, unfortunately, for this issue.
All right. Thank you, Larry. And thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for this presentation. And thank you for answering all of our questions. We appreciate you guys. Next. The next order of business is work session items, miscellaneous. Does
Mr.
anyone
Mayor?
have anything for
Yes,
miscellaneous? Yes, Mr. Schwartz.
Okay, first, I wanted to thank whoever's responsible for this. I got a phone call earlier this week from Joey Bonner, our former chair and current planning board member. I guess certificates were sent out to their homes for the people who have served. I thought not just retired, but people who are still serving but have served the length of time. I guess he was no longer the chair. And I was speaking with him, and for those who know or have been to meetings, unfortunately, Mr. Bonner is sick, and he's still on the board and he's still coming to meetings. But I thought, and I want to run this by the council, I thought he lives on a small street, Somerset Gate. There's only 2 homes on the street, and I thought it'd be fitting for his 25 years of service that the council entertain naming the small street after him for his 25 years of service. We've named streets to 2 sets of people, those who passed away tragically, and then those who have had lengthy decades-long service to the town. So I'd like to, if this is the right form, I'd like to bring that up. I did speak with him today, and I have his consent to say this. So I wanted to throw that out there. Mention.
Anyone else? Mr. Katz?
Is it a motion or just discussion?
If I don't, again, I don't know what the new rule, what there used to be, that would be a motion. I'm not sure if we changed that committee that I was doing signs. It's been a while. If the motion's required, I'll make the motion. If that's changed, by all means, let me know.
Yeah, Mr. Clerk, do you recall, did we do a moratorium on this, or there was no moratorium? And I think we were just gonna take a break and then revisit it. You remember the story?
Isn't there a subcommittee on this? Isn't there a subcommittee that kind of talks about this?
Yeah, do you recall?
Yeah, I think it's Deputy Mayor Katz, G, and I'm not sure who the third person. Maybe
Okay.
Mayor Pagan.
So then I'd
There
like
is.
to push this to the subcommittee if that's.
Mr. Clerk, is that accurate, sir? Just give Doug 30 seconds. He'll find it real quick. No rush. It's okay. We'll figure it out. And thank you for bringing this up, Mr. Schwartz. He'll find it. He's.
When we established subcommittees at the beginning of the year, plaques and signs was not one of the subcommittees. We established budget, cannabis, zoning, parking, leaf collection, personnel, affordable housing, leadership, TNAC.
All right, so what does council want to do?
Do we need a subcommittee or can we just have 4 nodding heads?
I'm nodding.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor G.
I said this earlier in the year. I think we need to develop clear criteria for how we decide to rename streets. I don't think we've had clear criteria in the past, or I guess, I haven't seen any in the last 7 months. So I would suggest, I don't know if it's the plaque committee, whatever committee, subcommittee is, come up with a set of criteria, and we use that criteria every time someone wants to make a nomination to decide, whether or not that would be appropriate.
Anyone else?
I would
love to
serve on
work
that as well with Councilman Schwartz.
Okay, so Mr. Schwartz, Ms. Belcher, and Ms. Organ, you're interested, ma'am?
I would love to.
All right, cool.
I'm gonna nominate Ms. Organ to run lead.
Thank you again,
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Schwartz, for that. Does anyone else have anything for miscellaneous?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make the following nominations. I would like to nominate Libby Klein to the vacancy currently on PPRAB. I would like to nominate Reshma Khan to the vacancy currently on MOST, Edward Pierce to the 3-year term on Site Plan Review Board, and Jose Camacho to the 2-year term on Site Plan Review Board. And Mr. Clerk and Mr. Attorney, for each, can we make these separate resolutions going forward? Because I know that we've been breaking them apart and voting individually going forward. So going forward, can we just do one resolution per person so council can vote individually, please? Thank you.
What was the term for Edward Pierce?
Yeah, what was Pierce again? Sorry.
3 years for Mr. Pierce and 2 for Camacho.
I second.
Can you say those names again? I'm sorry. Can you say them?
Libby.
Libby Klein to PPRAB, Reshma Khan to MOST, Edward Pierce to Site Plan Review, and Jose Camacho to Site Plan Review.
All right, we have a first and a second. I'm sorry.
Was it Camacho?
Jose Camacho.
Mr. Clerk, we have a first and a second, sir.
Yes, yes, sorry, 1 second.
Did you get all the names? Do you want us to repeat it for you?
Councilman Schwartz?
Are we allowed to speak now or we're not allowed to speak after
Well,
this motion?
Precedents of motions, you have a first and a second. You have to call a vote, but please feel free to speak.
Thanks. When was the opening on MOST? When was the opening on PPRAB and when were these people interviewed? When was
It's
the
been,
notice to
it's been
interview?
on since, the subcommittee interviewed them. I wasn't part of those interviews, but they were on this.
Was that-
spreadsheet and
They were on the
everything.
colored
The
paper.
colored paper?
Colored
Yes,
paper?
this is the colored paper.
So that was a couple of months ago, the colored paper. So is that in line with what we're looking to fix with the code now? Where everything would be done within 4 weeks?
Well,
I think, I don't know, we sort of started talking about that, but
Yeah.
these,
code hasn't, those
I'm gonna-
changes haven't been adopted yet. And there is a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay, just my opinion, if we're gonna take points of order and do such, and we're working on changing things, then maybe not the appropriate time, but whatever has 4 votes.
Duly noted for the record, right, Mr. Clerk? All right, please call the roll when you get a chance, sir.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Belcher?
Yes to all.
Councilwoman Goldberg?
yes.
Councilman Organ?
No,
Deputy Mayor Katz? Deputy Mayor G?
Yes.
Mayor Began?
Yes,
We will see separate resolutions next consent agenda.
thank you, Mr.
Did
Clerk.
we skip old business?
No, we haven't gotten there
No.
yet. We're still on
Oh, sorry.
miscellaneous.
Oh, I
Does-
thought you got. to new business. My fault.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Anyone else have anything under miscellaneous? No, moving forward. Next on the agenda is old business. I see one item, garbage collection. Was that placed by Councilwoman Goldberg?
Yeah, I just
Manager
wanted to know if the
Kapinski?
manager could update the public on where he is with the RFP. I know I listed this before he sent it out to us, so if you could just give the quick update. So we know
Sure.
where we are.
The RFP is done. We put a supplemental into the RFP that includes recycling pickup. It will be advertised on September 1st. It will run for, I believe we have to run it for 90 days. And we'll see what comes in cost wise. And present it back to council and make a decision if it's cost worthy for the residents.
Anybody else have any more questions?
Yeah.
Ms. Organ?
So it's not just a cost thing. We're actually changing a policy of which garbage collectors can go to which quadrants of town, correct? We're not just RFPing for something, an attorney's seat that has to be there. We're now RFPing for something that we haven't decided if we're going to limit people on the collection that they're allowed to have. If we're taking private collection away from people and requiring them to use particular carriers, is that correct?
So this is the RFP to get the cost, because we've never done this. So, I mean, we've never seen how much it would cost.
So we're not looking for a lowest, we're looking to see how much it costs, but we're not necessarily looking for the lowest price on this. We still have to make a decision on whether we're going to go ahead with this.
Correct.
Okay.
So Councilwoman Goldberg, this is more of a request for information as opposed to RFP or RFQ, correct?
No, it's an RFP because we want to see what the bids come into, but we've never gone out. I mean, I can tell you, I've gotten asked so many times, you know, why don't we do garbage in our taxes? And, you know, we've never had a number to give the public, and maybe it costs more and we don't do it, which obviously we would never increase the cost to residents, but let's at least have a number to say we tried or we didn't try.
So that would be
So
RFI.
it's, well, but the manager is going out to get that cost and see what it costs, because we've never done this.
So the way it was written is that pickup would be twice a week and bulk item collection once a month. Again, we did add the supplemental for recycling. I'm just giving you what I think it's going to probably run just for pickup alone. Yearly, probably anywhere in that $4 to $6 million area, and that does not include dropping off the refuse at a facility, which, you know, certainly will cost us as well. So we'll see what the prices are, and we should have that sometime in the fall.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, so we're looking for information on what would it cost for one vendor to do the whole town?
Could be one vendor, or could be separated into quadrants, but
What does the RFP do?
yeah, it's gonna be really looking for the lowest vendor.
So one vendor?
Yes.
No, because multiple vendors, you'd have to probably do an RFP.
We're looking for the lowest cost from a vendor.
From one vendor.
And I think that it's on the township website I think it's under the Environmental Commission's piece, where there was a whole analysis done by them years ago about, you know, what the cost would be and talking into it. But I think, you know, maybe it's seeing how much it costs for one vendor, and again, just seeing what it costs. Let's get the information and then, you know, discuss from there, but at least we have the numbers to work with.
Anybody else have any more questions? Deputy Mayor G?
Yeah, I just have one clarifying question. This is getting a little bit ahead of myself, but if we were to go with a vendor for the town, would that preclude a resident from supplementing their pickup with a private vendor?
I will defer to council.
I think we'd have to discuss that as a whole. Though, I mean, we're not making any decisions on this. This is really just an exploratory, let's see what it costs.
I guess my theoretical question is, could you choose to have additional services should you want it?
I don't see why not. I can tell you, I personally do that. I don't see why not. Like, I do that for recycling.
The answer to that depends on what the council wants to do. It is common that you can do that, although it's fairly rare that people will supplement it, but typically in most municipalities, that is an option for people to supplement if they want to.
Yeah, no, I do that personally with recycling now, so I don't see why not.
Anyone else have any more questions? No? Moving on, next order of business is new business. Does anyone have anything under new business? No? Moving right along, communications? Anyone have anything for communications? No? Committee reports by council liaisons. First up is Patriotic Observance Advisory Board. Is that you, Ms. Organ?
It is. So in the packet, we have two pieces of information. The first is a very new program that the Patriotic Observance Advisory Board has put in to motion. It is the Township of Teaneck Military and Veteran Tribute Banner Program. And for anybody that has the packet, there's a picture of our own Roosevelt Sills and his picture from when he was in the military. What we're looking for, and the date on here is the end of August. We were hoping to have these up on poles around the town by November, by Veterans Day, but we may take a little bit longer. We're looking for nominations from people in town. And the form says must be a current or past Teaneck resident, must be a United States military veteran, or must be currently serving in the United States military on an active duty status, may be an immediate family member of a Teaneck resident, parent, spouse, child, sibling, grandchild, child-in-law. So those are the people that can nominate. And on the form, it asks your branch, your status, active duty veteran, or a memorial for a deceased veteran. And it would be wonderful if we could have people apply, whether family members or past residents of the town, that we can hang up and we can honor. And then hopefully every year we'll put money in the budget and we'll continue to add so that we have anybody that we'd like to honor up there. And photos are required. So everything's in the packet and on the website, and hopefully we'll send something else out on the website. And the other piece of information is we do have a veteran database now for anybody that has not signed up, just to disseminate information about Veterans Day, Memorial Day, things that might be available to veterans that we could pass that on. So if you know anyone, please let them know. And finally, we are looking for people to be active on the Patriotic Observance Advisory Board. If anybody's interested, check out the website or send me an email, and we'll see if we can get you interviewed by the Personnel Subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Next up, zoning
Mr.
subcommittee. Is
Mr.
it
Mayor,
Mr.
really,
Schwartz?
really quickly, I just wanted to thank Councilwoman Oregon because I'm really excited about the military banner program. So thank you very much for taking the lead on this.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes, subzoning committee met on July 11th. Their reports are in the packets and available online as well. A few items discussed were the State Street Master Development was discussed for the future. We discussed 140 State Street, which is a Queen Anne Road property that was a designated AINR, and the developer met and presented plans. Cedarling rezoning was discussed, and our planner will be coming back to us with some general ideas. Nothing specific has been addressed other than the potential address. We're talking Queen Anne Road to approximate the municipal building. So our planner will get back to us on that. 54 West Englewood Avenue was going to present. They could not attend. A more cohesive design ordinance was being discussed, and it's going to be rolled into the master plan. And then 189 The Plaza was reviewed as well in detail, and that's going to be on our agendas tonight. We also discussed an American Legion Drive community meeting, which was held on Monday, July 31st. And subsequent meetings are being proposed for November potentially, but there's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we can discuss it really quickly here, actually, maybe potentially November 20th for the next
Right, the
meeting.
Monday before Thanksgiving is what we were discussing.
Yeah.
For a round. Do you want to go into for the public talk about it, or we haven't decided anything yet, but
Right, this
Monday-
hasn't been decided yet,
Monday, November 20th is what we're thinking. And
potentially.
we're potentially we're reviewing the format as well.
Some of the feedback that we got was that similar to the master plan meeting that we had of having, small groups where people can talk about, what they want to see or what they don't want to see, so that there can be feedback given. So that's one of the formats that we were talking, but once we firm up everyone's schedule, we will announce it to the public, but sometime end of November.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Does anyone have anything else? Or invite Ms. Pelcher?
Just a couple of quick updates for my committees that I represent. For the most part, I just want to thank the Historic Preservation Commission for the monuments, and I want to thank the DPW for installation of the monuments. We are working with the Black Lives Matter Mural Committee on a date for an actual dedication, as well as the Bryant School mural organization that will let us know what's a good day and time for that. So I just wanted to give that update for the Historic Preservation Commission. And then also Stigma Free was out on Teaneck Night Out. And I just want to thank them for representing. And there are some upcoming dates that Stigma Free will be represented. at, and so you should see us around town. For an example, coming up on Teaneck Day, which is September 10th. They will be represented there, as well as the community meditation walk on Friday, September 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at Voti Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Anyone else? No, I have a quick one. The Shade Tree Advisory Board met last week. They discussed spotted lanternflies, the Phelps Park Arboretum, and Arbor Day. Our next order of business is council listed items. I listed the NJ Green Amendment, so I make a motion to approve the NJ Green Amendment and walk it onto the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Clerk?
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Began.
Yes.
Resolution number 226-2023 added to the consent agenda.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next order of business is Township Manager's Report. Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick announcements. Movie Under the Stars, that's August 15th and August 22nd. That takes place at the new Voti Park Band Shell. Start time is 7:45. There's always free popcorn. Bring your blanket and chair. For those interested, Finding Nemo will be played on the 15th, and Puss in Boots, The Last Wish on the 22nd. We continue with the Teaneck Summer Concerts, and they continue to take place on July 12th, 16th, 19th, and 23rd, 26th at the new Voti Park Band Shell as well. As Council Member Belcher said, Teaneck Day is scheduled for September 10th. That runs from 3 p.m. until 8 p.m. The night will end with a fireworks display at Voti Park. The next confidential paper shredding event takes place on the weekend of September 9th and 10th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. or until the truck is filled. Yesterday, I distributed information on Teaneck Community Energy Aggregation and speaking to our energy consultant, Gable. Again, prices remain significantly higher than a couple of years ago. However, I was told that the market may change and be more favorable in 2024 to procure a supply contract. So we're watching that closely, and when conditions warrant, we'll notify residents if and when a contract is signed and when the program is active. I want to personally thank Shelley Edelson from 5 Star. She graciously hosted a lunch for our first responders about 2 weeks ago. It was well attended by police, fire, DPW, and the ambulance corps. I want to thank the police department for hosting National Night Out. Although I was not there, I heard it was a wonderful and successful event. Some of the project updates going on now. The County of Bergen informed me yesterday that roadway resurfacing has been pushed off until 2024 due to bid document disagreements. This means that Cedar Lane from Teaneck Road to the Hackensack border will not be resurfaced until sometime in 2024. Our road resurfacing program is 2/3 complete. The contractor should finish all work early in September, and this will include a new 8-foot walking path in Brooks Park. So I'm looking forward to the completion of that. With the exception of striping, all work at the new Voti Park basketball facility is complete. Striping of the court should take place within the next week or two, and then we'll have an official dedication opening. The Beverly Road Municipal Parking Lot should be done by the end of this month. We put down conduit for a dual EV charging station. We have a couple of grant applications in to cover our costs. DPW, before we have the contractor come in to do some thermoplastic striping, is painting white and yellow or resurfacing some of the old white and yellow lines that need to be done. And they're out there working hard getting that done. DNL is starting the sidewalk repairs for the township. As I mentioned last meeting, we're going to do roughly 100 sidewalk replacements. They're going to start at Queen Anne Road by Voti. They're going to move forward to various parks, areas of various parks, including Sagamore, Andrea, Salmon, and Hart. We're also going to do sidewalk repairs by Teaneck Southern Little League, and some repairs still need to be done by Penn Avenue where we did the tree project. The township's tree inventory is underway. That work is being performed by Davy Tree Service. We'll wait for data when they're complete with that report. The website committee narrowed down the search to 2 contractors. I'm confident we'll make a decision within the next month on who we believe is best for the township to design our new website. Appointments, I promoted Dara Quinn to the rank of lieutenant and also John Meyer to the rank of sergeant. And that was effective on August 1st. And this was due to the retirement of Lieutenant Paul Finkler, who served the township for 30 years. Also appointed 3 new police officers on July 17th, Alex Barrera, Un Jin Cho, and Arthur Jang to the police force. They'll be, actually, they're in the police academy now. And the Civil Service Commission finally scheduled the firefighter physical examination. That's scheduled for August 15th. Once that testing is done, they'll notify us of the eligible applicants that passed the test, and we can move forward with those names and have the police department conduct the background investigations and hopefully hire anywhere from 5 to 10 firefighters sometime this fall. And from the grant end, we're still waiting to hear about a $15,000 grant to combat lantern flies. We've already set 10 traps in various parks and in open space, and we received those traps free of charge from the county of Bergen. So we do have a plan in place. Once we get notified, we should get the 15,000, and we do have a Viking that will handle the treatment for lantern flies throughout town. It's not only a Teaneck problem, it's obviously a problem everywhere. So that's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Next on the agenda is the Township Attorney's report. Mr. Salmon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. So we'll move on to formal meeting items, and our next order of business is good and welfare. Any member of the public wishing to be heard at this time can please come forward and please state their name for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone want to speak? Mr. Vatsky?
Okay. Art Vatsky, and I want to report how impressed I am with the manager's presentation. It was terrific. And I'd like to get a copy if possible.
Sure.
Okay. It could have included a lot of information, more than I expected. And I'm a bit of an old hand on railroads. I was involved a decade ago here in Teaneck when we first started talking with CSX. But as good as the presentation is, it's not enough. If a train derails in Teaneck, essentially Teaneck changes. The towns that suffer derailings don't recover. Okay, we cannot afford a derailing. Well, they're not here, they moved. It can happen, it will happen. No, won't. It may happen. No one can say it can't happen. But you're going to be entering a new world if a train derails in Teaneck. And Bergen County is going to be entering a new world if it derails anywhere along the line. Putting out the fires is step 1. Okay, recovery is step 3, 10, whatever. So I want you to understand that derailing is not a Teaneck problem, it's a national problem. Everyone is waiting for something to happen, for another derailing. All right, from here to Montana, California, they happen all the time. No one can say it cannot happen here. I'm taking too much time. The resolution that the Teaneck Democrats sent to the council has not been recognized or acted on. It covers some areas that the manager didn't get to touch on. We wanted to form a coalition of municipalities to reach out to the state and the federal government because we're concerned. Any one of thousands of other towns can do that, but we could do it here and we could be first. I wanted to know how much does CSX pay in taxes to the town of Teaneck? They've got 3 miles long, maybe 50 yards wide, have a valuable investment. How much do they pay? Okay, I want to know who was responsible for excluding the public from the July 10 meeting. I want to know, did CSX give a schedule of the improvements they plan to make? God forbid, something happens before they put in those changes. They're putting in some good changes, and it'd be good to see it. I'm not criticizing CSX, but we need to know the schedule. We need to know when, and when can we have an additional follow-up meeting with CSX? And am I out of time? Yeah,
I
no,
think you are, sir. Yes. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Vatsky.
thank you.
Appreciate you. Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone on Zoom?
Bringing in Tracy.
Tracy, can you hear us, ma'am? If so, you have 3 minutes.
Feel free to unmute whenever you're ready, Tracy. Please unmute, Tracy.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Oh, great, great. I was interested in the evacuation plan. It all seemed very well thought out, but I didn't hear a word about how people who don't drive are supposed to evacuate. My husband and I are both blind. Are we supposed to, like, we live like 500 feet from the railroad tracks on Chestnut Avenue. Are we just supposed to start hoofing it towards Hackensack as fast as we can go? And if we don't make it, too bad, so sad. I also point out that there's a big nursing home on River Road. What about those people? I mean, maybe our neighbors will help us, you know, if they happen to be home and if they're not too busy saving their own families. Is there any evacuation plan for people who don't drive?
Is
That's
that
it.
all you have to say, Ms. Carcione? Ms.
I'm
Carcione?
done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Nawitz, did you raise your hand?
Good evening, Tony Nayowitz, Teaneck. I have a few pieces of business to bring up. One is an example of not only an eyesore, but a significant safety hazard. This is right in front of 478 Cedar Lane. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen, and it just, in my mind, is inexcusable. And it's several months that it's been in this condition, months, not weeks or days. I also respect how we want to make and beautify Cedar Lane, but a comment that the choice of trees might be a consideration going forward, since the trees that were selected have a significant amount of debris falling from them all year, not just in the fall when the leaves fall. And it's an eyesore for the street. Since there hasn't been a lot of attention given for various reasons to cleaning the street, this debris not only discolors the sidewalks, but gets tracked into all the businesses. So I think it's sort of counterproductive, and it detracts from the attractiveness of the trees. I would also like to comment on the development of Beverly Road and Stop and Shop. As regards Beverly Road, there's, again, this is a subjective opinion, woefully inadequate parking for the businesses on Cedar Lane. Ideally, all the businesses would be occupied, all the vacancies would be filled. There's inadequate parking for a predictable amount of, a business patronage. to start taking that space away for development, which is going to generate more cars, I really think is a terrible idea. I really wish everybody would reconsider that. Vis-a-vis the Stop and Shop development, as it stands now, there's very limited ingress and egress to that area. All it is that one narrow street, a hill. And, you can sometimes sit there for 2 traffic lights if you're trying to exit from the Stop and Shop area, going north up to Cedar Lane and then make a right or a left. It's not unusual to sit there for 2 lights. Imagine that we have a whole development down there. Where are the cars going to go? Alma Terrace is very treacherous in the wintertime. And Alma Terrace is the short street that spans the Water Street area over to Elm, and then it stops. So I really think we need to consider that whole,
Thank you, Ms. Naowitz.
traffic flow.
Thank you, Ms. Naowitz. Doug, do we have someone on Zoom?
Sandy, bringing in Sandy, please state your name for the record. Whenever you're ready, please unmute and state your name for the record.
Can you hear me, Doug?
Loud and clear, Ms. Silverberg, 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, council, Mr. Manager. Wow, I'm always overwhelmed by what you do in an hour. I don't think other people do in a month. Mr. Clerk, friends, I was present at the July 31st presentation, so tonight I want to urge the council to pause further construction plans, no pilots, no AINRs for real and for now. Thoughtful development that does not fundamentally change the nature of the township of Teaneck is desirable, but over a decade ago, as a member of Paul Eisenman, may he rest in peace, grassroots group advocating for pay-to-play reform and happily succeeding in seeing many reforms on the local and countywide level, recent events are deja vu experiences for me and others. I well remember more than one library auditorium stuffed to the gills meetings of the planning boards where scores of concerned citizens pleaded with the planners to hold off on further development in the northeast section of Teaneck. No amount of evidence, testimony, or witnessing could stop the bulldozers despite the overwhelming sentiment of the citizens. It was as clear then as it is now. People were seemingly ignored. The master plan of the day was cited. It was seemingly ignored. We all see what happened in the Northeast. Is it all bad? No, of course not. But could it have been better? We can all see what happened to the street Mrs. Baker lives on. What sad lessons have we learned? That despite a master plan, despite overwhelming pleas from the neighborhood, despite all the opposition, building went through with little regard for alternatives. Now it seems we are living this all over again. There will be a revised master plan. You can't blame me and others for being skeptical. The master plan is not a binding contract. It is a set of suggestions. It can be followed or ignored. One would think that the will of the people would determine what's to happen in their own neighborhoods. The track record of planning and building here doesn't inspire confidence. There is a significantly different council tonight from that which existed some 10, 12 years ago. Part of the history part of the reasons for these changes, I dare suggest, is to be found in the recent history. No grudges, no hard feelings. I don't hold any one individual responsible for what we do and do not like. This is a new day. I urge this council to put a moratorium in place on further development and building until such time as the master plan is complete. Teaneck citizens have had sufficient time to participate meaningfully, and that our elected officials reflect as best they can the will of the people. Thank you. And
Thank you,
again,
Ms.
thank
Silverberg.
you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Silverberg. Dr. Yep.
Bill Yuck, Teaneck resident. Hello, Council. I first want to thank you for an eye-opening development forum last week. It was great to see that so many concerned residents came out to hear, learn, and express their views. And as you heard from residents last week, not one person spoke up in favor of building on American Legion Drive or Beverly Road. It was abundantly and undeniably clear that nobody in that packed room wants our parking lots taken away and built upon. We don't care that Mr. Schwartz and former council member Keith Kaplan have said that the lots are underutilized and that this was a transparent process open to the public. We know better. The lots get used, nobody was notified, nobody was informed, residents had no idea, and none of the residents and community activists and leaders who spoke at the forum were aware until September 2022, when the settlement agreement became public. This whole smelly mess was colluded outside of the public eye, and we fully expected and were not at all surprised that the renditions in the settlement agreement of the proposed construction were exactly what we would be seeing at the forum, even though we were told repeatedly by Mr. Schwartz at other times that there is no plan. Who did you think you were fooling? I am asking this council and will again and again until this plan is scratched to do the right thing, to not let this development ever take place, no matter the cost. You need to withdraw from the settlement agreement and rescind the AINR, period, no matter the consequences. That is the right thing to do for our town and what residents throughout town overwhelmingly want. If not, we residents will have no choice but to take action to protect our town from overdevelopment. We will not stand by and be victims like Margaret Baker now is. If you seriously think that building apartment buildings and parking garages next to private homes is a fine thing to do, I would like to propose another site for AINR designation, but only if we are forced to bear the brunt of this ill-conceived, conflict of interest-laden, underhanded development that might be forced down our throats. What you are looking at, what I passed around, is a large 1-acre piece of vacant, neglected property on Winthrop Road that has been for sale for quite some time. I'm not sure how long, maybe several years. It is clearly an eyesore and definitely in need of redevelopment. Nobody could argue that. Winthrop Road is an underutilized area of town with very large homes and mansions, removed from the hustle and bustle of Cedar Lane District. It could use more people and cars. Why not declare that property to be an AINR and build a 5, 6, 8, or even a 10-story apartment building on that site? You could easily fit in 100 or more units and 200 cars. I'm sure the neighbors will not mind that at all. In fact, they might welcome that development to beautify their street, increase traffic, and some excitement to their neighborhood, and lower their taxes. Think about it. And what about that neglected incomplete construction on Johnson Avenue that has been an eyesore for years? You could build there too, 4 or 6 stories, I'm almost done, and maybe 24 units sandwiched right between 2 homes. Good idea? When and where will this stop?
Thank you, Mr. Yep. Doug, do we have anyone on Zoom? No one on Zoom? Anyone else in chambers want to speak? Dr. Powers?
Dr. Powers, thank you. Thank you, Council, for moving ahead on filling some of the advisory boards, which most certainly do need to be moving and guiding things like our development. Certainly, the most committees should be doing it. Certainly, the site plan review advisory board should be doing it. Getting those boards up and functioning before you go ahead and ignore what your public is telling you about what they want to happen on development. Tonight, you have 2 actions proposed. Resolution 225, out of nowhere, 56 pages of legalese, which I doubt that most of you have actually read. I am certain that most of the public hasn't read. And 46 pages on the introduction of an ordinance. To do what? Apparently, that this council is not satisfied with what the last council did and with a redevelopment plan for 189. So for some reason, there's going to be a resolution in which you embrace that redevelopment plan without any chance that the public understands what you are doing. You have absolutely promised one thing, transparency. For heaven's sakes, allow the public to know what it is you're doing. Let me give you an example of what I'm certain you don't know what you're doing. There was not until the last 24 hours, the full cost of the 189 pilot project provided on the website. When we finally got it within the last 24 hours, I went and looked, and we find out that in fact, although what we heard about that project in June is there, it is the numbers as to what are actually the soft costs involved in that pilot are $855,000 different than what we were told in June they would be. That's just an example of how little we understand about what the resolution is trying to accomplish. What is going on with the denial of the public view about pilots and proceeding in direct opposition to some of the things that have most clearly been told to you. And there is a solution, at least for tonight. If you won't wait for the new master plan, will you please wait tonight on those two actions? Thank you
Dr.
very
Powers.
much.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Ms. Rogovan?
Oh, Mayor, I actually had someone on Zoom. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, absolutely. Paul, come on. I was just giving him a point of clarity. Laverne, we will get to you in just a few minutes.
Paula Rogovan, founding member of the Coalition to Ban Unsafe Oil Trains, which has been trying since 2014 to get legislation passed in the state. TNEC is in a new period of openness and transparency. There is no place for private meetings about rail safety with CSX. What do we want? Step one for TNEC, hold a public forum about rail safety. Hear from residents and first responders about our concerns. Compile a list of people's concerns. Send that to CSX. Ask for a written response. Then have a meeting with CSX to address those concerns. Include representatives from the public. If CSX won't meet with the public, go public to the media. Go to the Federal Rail Administration. Go to our senators.
Oh, my boss, I can't come to work.
Number two.
You can't say that. Why?
Pass a resolution supporting Assembly Bill A5605, Senate Bill 4049, and work for its passage in the state legislature. Help get other towns to pass the bill. Send a letter to the governor asking him to sign it. Send the letter to appropriate, when it's passed, send a letter to the appropriate Senate and Assembly committees. The Coalition to Ban Unsafe Oil Trains is working with a statewide coalition, including rail unions, the Association of Professional Firefighters, along with Senator Gordon and our two Assembly women, Hayter and Park, on this bill. It addresses specific rail safety issues, minimum two-person crews, shorter trains, wayside detectors, and other safety measures. We're working on another bill that addresses the right to know issues. What is in the trains? Who should know in advance so they can address any problems if they should occur? So why do I sound so hostile to CSX? It's the history of the rail industry trying to block rail safety regulations. They lobby and they donate huge amounts of money to politicians at all levels. Here's an example of why I'm not so keen on, or we're not so keen on CSX. CSX Vice President Howard Skip Elliott lobbied New Jersey officials to oppose Senator Weinberg's rail safety bill, which dealt with the few areas that can be regulated by the state. Most of the regulations are federal. The bill failed, But under Trump, under the Trump administration, Howard Skip Elliott became the head of PIMSA,
Thank you,
the
Paula.
Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration,
Thank you,
and
Paula.
rolled back rail safety regulations.
Thank you, Ms. Ragova.
Since that, just let me finish the paragraph. The derailment in East Palestine, the rail industry lobby has been effective in weakening the bipartisan federal rail safety legislation. Rail companies are not our friends. That's why we may
Thank you,
approach
Ms.
them
Ragova.
with the clarity about what we, the people, rail workers and first
Thank you, Paula.
responders want.
Thank you, Paula. Mr. Clerk, you said we had someone on Zoom. Was it Laverne Lightburn?
Laverne, Miss Lightburn, yes, you are free to unmute 3 minutes.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Laverne.
I'm having a problem here. Hold on.
You sound great.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and
You
clear.
look great. 3 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, real quick. I wanted to thank you guys for acknowledging this particular committee, for acknowledging our request to do something in honor of Loretta Weinberg. That's the reason I'm calling in. The other thing is, I'm curious on, I also want to acknowledge that the building on Teaneck Road, the senior citizen building, looks good. It didn't stop the traffic like I expected. It didn't impact us that much. I would like to acknowledge that. However, I would like to understand in the future, while the building looks good, that poor lady that lives right next to it, you can touch that building. It's completely over her, it's right over her backyard. She has no privacy. And so if you all are going to continue to do these buildings, can you all consider the square footage, how close it could be to a residential home? I don't want them in a residential neighborhood to begin with. Let me just clarify. But while you're doing that, I'm sure that all of us have houses. None of y'all would like to be able to go out your backyard and touch the building. It is blocking everything for that woman. So that's all I want to say. Can y'all consider to put some rules in that will either compensate, buy the person out, or compensate for the inconvenience that it's going to do to her block, to her home and her family, her privacy? She can't even go out in her pajamas if she wanted to in her backyard. Y'all did that with the other Teaneck Road. That man begged y'all not to build that building. It was overlooking his, the Verizon building. It was overlooking that whole street. Those are just things that I would like to see changed. Lord, hope nothing happens like something that happens in my community. I mean, behind me. So I just wanted y'all to, my 32 minutes, I just wanted y'all to recognize that and see if y'all can do something about that for future projects. Thank you. You all have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Rose?
Good evening, Howard Rose, resident of Teaneck, former member of the Teaneck Board of Education for 6 years, former member of the Planning Board for 16 years. AINR. I know what it stands for now. Actually, it's not reasonable. I know it, you know it, and apparently the residents of Teaneck, many of them showed up last week. They know it. Please think, vote, do the right thing. Master plan. Sandy gave a lot of good comments on that. I want to emphasize the fact that it's not just the soul of Teaneck. It tells our history. It tells who we were, how we've developed, where we are now, population, statistics, information. It's just, I forget how many pages, 72 pages or so, I forget. But it's a lot of information. But the state's mandate is that it can be reviewed in part or in full at any point in time. And every 10 years, it must be fully reviewed. Well, we're several years, 7 years late on that. But in review, there's an option. You can change, revise, or leave it alone. So I hope that the planning board, council, and residents have their say and that we make whatever adjustments, if any, are necessary. It's important that we all participate. On a somber note, Teaneck has had 2 residents murdered and their homes put on fire in the past. August 20, well, I guess it's 13 years ago, 2010. I sent a letter to the editor regarding one of them. One was Rob Cantor, and about 2 weeks ago, a second trial was held, and it reaffirmed the guilt of a person who was considered to be the perpetrator. Joan Davis, the other person, no one's been caught. And I wrote a letter to the editor back in 2010. We are always caught off guard when the unimaginable happens. How do you reconcile the malicious murder of a gentle woman whose main activity was to help ensure community well-being? Teaneck could not have asked for a more sincere advocate. I did not know Joan Davis on a social basis, but I did know her through our numerous encounters and discussions at many town council and town planning board meetings. Many evenings after a late night session, I would drive her home. She was always appreciative, and we were able to continue our exchange about various topics. Amazingly, Joan was always prepared with background information that she gathered without the use of a computer. There were some topics in which we did not agree, but she was always gracious and calm as she explained her position. Our community, our sense of security, and our general well-being has been diminished by the loss of Joan Davis. I only make this statement known now again so that we don't forget her. We don't forget the incident, and we be aware that we have a very rigorous police and fire department that responded to these incidents.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
They're still here. I hope people stay prepared.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
secure.
Rose. Thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone else on Zoom? No? Anyone else in chambers want to speak? No? Good and welfare is now closed. Members of council, Mr. Schwartz?
Yes, very briefly. Thank you, everyone for coming out. Mr. Director, the way the subzonal committee works with the Prelude to Development, we invite everyone and anyone who has a plan that puts together a plan that like to discuss it. Johnson Avenue is a very interesting house, and if there's some plans for that, if someone wants to purchase it and meet with the subzoning committee, please email myself or the manager of any member of the subcommittee if you're in contract with the property, and we'll set up a meeting and to discuss what you'd like to do, and we can see if that's, and if it's something interesting, we can move forward. You can move forward. We can move forward together. So thank you very much, and I'll defer all the other comments to later at night if there's any other regarding the resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. Belcher?
I just want to say thank you to all that came out tonight and was on Zoom. I just want to thank you also for attending the redevelopment meeting that we had. The participation was awesome. Your comments were all heard. I think that it's vitally important that the master plan continue to produce some serious results, and I think that we have a good core committee that's working on that. I think that some of the key things that have come out of since I've been here that I really believe is vitally important is we have to address design standards in development. We have to address tools of development. It's not just development. I think we're all in favor of development, but the tools of development such as AINR, it does not have to be something that we necessarily all agree on. So we have to really evaluate tools of development. And also, I think it's something else is vitally important is that the fact that we are appointing people to the site review board. Okay, that was a board that was totally defunct when we came in. Even though it was, it's in my opinion, it's a new set of eyes on an application. So that doesn't hurt because these are the site review board is comprised of credentialed individuals, such as architects and engineers and so forth. So I think that that is a definite positive step that will only serve to help us in development within our township. I hear what you guys are saying, Mr. Powers. I hear what you're saying, Ms. Laverne, and I think these are issues that are going to be addressed as we continue to pursue the master plan. Thank you, Dean, for the comprehensive report for CSX. I encourage a continuous improvement, such as the OEM website, also communication plan. I like our residents, Ms. Carciano, did not know exactly where do people go. I'm sure I'm not the only person that says, you know, where do you go when you say evacuate? What exactly does that mean? So I would seriously suggest that we might want to consider, Mr. Manager, some type of community OEM meeting so that people that, just like our resident brought up, if I don't drive, how do I evacuate? I know that those are things that are important. And lastly, I want to thank the community for just being here tonight and giving us your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Ms. Goldberg.
I'm gonna keep my remarks short tonight because I'm gonna save comment for the resolution later. But I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And Tony, I do agree with you on Cedar Lane. It does need to be the focus. And we do need to stress that, you know, we do support the business owners and we do want to see Cedar Lane be a vibrant business district and where people can park. We announced it 2 meetings ago, I think it was, that we are having a specific Cedar Lane Council retreat dedicated to Cedar Lane development issues in December. And I also hope you'll come to the November meeting because they're all related. And I also just want to echo what Councilwoman Belcher just said regarding CSX and potentially maybe we do have a drill evacuation if that's something that we can do. And regarding development, we are evaluating all of the tools in the toolbox on development, and I'm going to reserve the rest of my comments for later. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Ms. G.
Also want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing their thoughts with the council as usual. Wanted to make some quick comments about development in Teaneck. I know there is a lot of, thoughts on AINR and pilots and all of these things that have been somewhat abused in the past. And I think we need to find balance. Last year, I got an email from a resident whose student was in Teaneck High and she needed a place to stay or her kid was going to have to leave school. And I tried as hard as I could to find something for her in Teaneck, and it was impossible. There was nothing for her. She had a voucher, but there was nowhere to go. A couple of months after that, I got an email from a resident who was leaving an abusive relationship and she needed to find somewhere to go. Again, tried as hard as I could. There was nowhere for her to go. So we need to figure out a balance of trying to help increase housing in Teaneck, but also trying to keep the look and feel of the Teaneck that we all know and love. I appreciated Laverne's comments about creating buffers and protecting existing homes when there is new development near the homes, but there has to be balance. And I don't think it's saying no to everything. I don't think it's saying, giving out pilots that don't help Teaneck, in any way. But I think we really need to be thoughtful and try to find balance because it is a difficult situation and there isn't one solution to it all. So just wanted to share that. And then I'll share any additional comments with the resolution later as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. G. As always, thank you to all of our residents who came out tonight and participated. Ms. Carcinone, we do indeed have an evacuation plan for the disabled and those with cars, but we will double check our website and our mailings to make sure that it is listed for our residents so that they are aware of it. But I like the suggestion Ms. Belcher just made so that more of our residents are informed. And as for development, while I do support the 189 Plaza project and will support it until it is completed, I will no longer support any pilots or ANINRs until our new master plan is finished, because our master plan matters and that document should be our guideline for future growth. And with that said, Mr. Manager, is there anything you would like to say about any of the comments made tonight?
Sure. 478 Cedar Lane. Actually, during the meeting, I was able to communicate with our DPW director. They were looking for matching pavers, but in the interim, he said tomorrow morning they will do some temporary repairs, asphalt repairs to that area at 478. So that'll be taken care of by noontime tomorrow. And again, I do not disagree with having an OEM meeting. So I'll see if I can coordinate that with our people, police, fire, OEM, as well as county OEM.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Our next order of business is the consent agenda, and all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If any discussion is desired by council, that particular item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the amount of the bill list into the record?
We are talking about our consent agenda this evening, like you mentioned, has two sets of minutes on it. We have resolutions 220 to 226, the walked-in resolution from earlier this evening for the Green Amendment, and the bill list in the amount of $17,548,792.32.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull 220 and 225, please.
220 and 225. All right. Is there a motion to approve everything else on the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Goldberg, seconded by Mr. Schwartz.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes, and on the bill list, staying on 23-02921 and 23-03274. That's some advertising in the Jewish link for the planning board meetings.
Councilman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilman Goldberg,
Yes, on the bills list, I need to recuse on 23-03380 invoice 36973 as it relates to Wayne's Puppies.
say that one more time, Councilwoman, I'm sorry.
Recuse on 23-03380 invoice 36973 relating to Wayne's Puppies.
Yep.
And no on 23-00803 invoice 6571887. Thank you.
Say that last one, 00803.
Yeah, invoice number 6571887. Yes on everything else.
Councilman Organ,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes, with an abstention on the bill list.
Deputy Mayor G,
Yes.
Mayor Began,
Yes.
adopted.
All right, Ms. Goldberg, you pulled 220.
Yeah. On that one, I wanted to separate, first of all, I wanted to separate out, there was 3 names on there. And I wanted to also make a motion to amend for Mr. Ohana to a 1-year term instead of the 3-year term. Second. And then can we vote on those 3 names separately?
Yeah, Mr. Clerk, do we have to do a roll call vote on that, or can we just go into it? Because there was a motion in a second, so just.
No, understood. Mr. Salmon, can we act on a resolution like that, or should it just be a new resolution?
We can amend it. Yeah.
Okay. But did you just want to
I want to amend
the
Um,
1 year to 3 year?
the 3-year to 1-year.
3 year to 1 year
Mr.
And then I want to vote on everyone separately.
on everyone separate. We could do that. That was my question, Mr. Salmon. We could do that, right? Vote on everyone separately in the resolution body?
No, okay, no, not because it was brought as one resolution, we would need to do separate resolutions for each of them. We were to vote on them individually,
So we can't vote on them separately?
not without withdrawing this resolution and introducing new resolutions for each of them.
So we'd have to do that next meeting or?
They can be oral at this point. The individuals have already been introduced. So for purposes of were introduced at a previous meeting, so for purposes of the actual resolution itself, we can amend them, or we can do new ones here, just oral, and then later follow
So
them
can
up.
we
with
do
written.
that? Are we, or
to the
is
council.
everyone okay with us doing that?
We
Can
can do
make a
that.
motion to do
That
that?
makes it easier for
Do it
everyone. yeah.
Would we have to walk in 2 new resolutions, one for Patriotic Reservist Advisory Board, one for Site Plan Review Advisory Board? That's what you're suggesting, Scott?
For each person
It'd
that
be
we. Yeah.
three resolutions.
Oh, okay. So three, just split up for each person. Okay, so it would be 227, 228, and 229. Can we do that after the consent agenda has been introduced at this point, Scott?
I don't see any reason why not.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure.
Yeah.
I have no idea of any reason why not. That's why I asked. Okay, so then we need a motion to walk in these three new resolutions, correct?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to walk them in. All three.
Second. Seconded by who?
Mr. Katz.
And I'm just going to say 227 is for David Ohana. John Cohen is 228.
And these are the, I made the motion to amend them to 1-year terms.
No, yes, I'll get there. It's
Both 1 year or Mr. Ohana 1 year?
We'll do each resolution one at a time. 229 is going to be for Emma Harowitz.
What's Emma Harwitz for?
That is for Patriotic Observance Advisory Board. David and John are for the Site Plan Review Advisory Board. And the first one was for David Ohana. Councilwoman Goldberg, that's resolution number 227-2023. And what would you like the term to be?
1 year,
What is the terms now?
3-year.
Are there 1 year?
The site plan review board has 3-year, 3 years, 3 2 years, 3 1 year.
And is this a professional?
This is,
Have we filled the professionals or not yet?
no. These were the ones that were walked on by Councilwoman Organ last meeting.
So basically what we're doing is we're taking the 3-year term from Mr. Ohana and then we're applying that to the nominations that were made for 2 people tonight to be voted on at the next meeting.
I did 1 3-year nomination and 1 2-year nomination.
How do you feel about giving Mr. Ohana a 2-year nomination then instead of bringing him from 3 to 1?
What's his qualifications? Was he a lawyer or a planner?
He works in the city with planning. He's not a planner. He works in real estate in the city with plans and filings and.
All right, but Mr. Clerk, there was a motion and a second, right? So we do have to vote on this.
So it was 1 year, correct, for David Ohana?
Yeah.
Motion you made in-
All right, so for 1 year for the Site Plan Review Advisory Board for David Ohana, and then do you want to, let's detail all the resolutions, then we'll vote
One
on
at
them
a time. Yeah,
separately.
let's do Ohana first. Because I think
Then for
Goldberg
John,
motion and Katz made the second.
yes, I have that written down. For John Cohen, how long was the term?
I think the resolution is for 3 years.
And you're keeping it at 3 years, correct?
And can we change his name to Jonathan?
Sure.
Thanks.
And for that's gonna be 228, 229 is going to be Emma Harowitz. And that resolution as it was for just a regular appointment as a member to Patriotic Observance Advisory Board. That's staying the same, right?
Yes.
All right, so we had a first and a second, and we will vote on these separately. Resolution 227 for David Ohana for the 1 year Site Plan Review Advisory Board. Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilman Organ,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Began.
Yes.
Adopted. For resolution number 228, which is for Jonathan Cohen, 3-year spot at the Site Plan Review Advisory Board. Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
No.
Councilwoman Organ.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G.
No.
Mayor Began.
This is for 228 Jonathan
Jonathan
Cohen.
Cohen.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I was looking at the wrong listing. My vote is a no for Jonathan.
Not adopted. Resolution number 229 for Emma Harowitz to POAB. Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Belcher. Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G,
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
229 adopted.
And Ms. Goldberg, you pulled 225?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask out a bunch of questions to Dr. Powers' point that I wanted to kind of discuss publicly and ask the attorney about the agreement and the 225. So just sorry for everybody. This is going to take a couple minutes. My first question. So this resolution is, we're just authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement to the terms that were already decided by the previous council in 50-2022 in November of 2022. Is that just to make sure that we're understanding what we're voting on? Okay. Is there anything in this agreement that binds the council to a pilot agreement? So we're introducing a pilot agreement. It's the next in the ordinance, and the next meeting it's a vote if this passes. Is there anything in there that binds the council to that?
No.
Okay. There in the agreement, there was something about the certificate of occupancy regarding that we're issuing certificate CFOs individually for each unit, one at a time. Is that standard? Are we doing anything safety issues? Can you just talk to that for a second?
Sure. So that is standard that as the units are being completed, they can be issued a certificate of occupancy. And then throughout the entire process, obviously the building department will be in touch and checking out the property, make sure that it is that everything is safe. It's just a standard way of doing this sort of thing. Yeah.
And we do that normally for other buildings too.
Well, I'm not sure about TNX specifically, its
Generally.
past practices, but generally speaking, yes, that is common throughout New Jersey.
And the developer has to complete the affordable units at the same time as the market rate. So they can't complete the market rate unit and then say, oh, we have to wait and, hold off on the affordable units.
Correct. Yeah.
And the financials have been reviewed by the developer, by NW Financial.
Yes.
So just my understanding is that there's no town property that's being given up for any reason to the developer. So if they couldn't go through with this project for any reason due to financing or anything, that we're not losing any tax money, we still get the current tax rate that we're getting today.
That's correct.
There's no loss.
Mhm.
And can the developer sell the pilot to be or transferred it to anyone else without council approval?
No, they would have to come back to the council.
All right. And at 189, the plaza, the residents are going to have access to 22 parking spots. Have we gotten a developer to provide the spots for any other
That's
buildings?
a correction, sorry. The residents, the 22 parking spots, which are indoor spots, which are approximately $1 million value, not the residents, the public. I think you said residents. When we built 1500 Teaneck Road and other sites, we had an abundance of parking. We did a study and we're now parked at approximately 1.17 spots for every apartment. And as such, this is from Stonefield, our engineering company, and our traffic engineers. So what we did is when we met with this developer, we said, what is the public going to get out of this pilot in addition to the tax money and the affordable housing? And the settlement was 22 set aside spots that are open to the public, covered as well, which is especially helpful from the weather. So that is an approximately $1 million value on top of everything else, which is obviously beneficial to us as well. And this is private property. They're building this on private property for the public benefit.
All right. I don't have any more questions. I do want to say something before we vote, but if anyone else has any more questions.
Anybody have any questions? The floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay, so this is not something new. Discussions on 189 The Plaza have been ongoing for years. As a community, we were successful in reducing the size of the original building by 100 feet, which in its original proposal would have been 15 stories high, reaching 173 feet. There will be public parking available in the building, as Councilmember Schwartz just said, alleviating a major problem for residents and shoppers in the area. And hopefully the double and triple parking will go down there as well. That's a big safety concern. The previous council approved this redevelopment, as did the previous planning board. An ordinance 50-22 introduced last September and adopted November 2022, 2 weeks after the election. The previous council passed a redevelopment plan for 189 The Plaza. This resolution implements the details of that ordinance. Many changes have been made to protect the interests of the township and its residents, cutting the height, protected parking spots, and squeezing as much as we can from the developer. This project is in the middle of a business district and is several hundred feet from the nearest single-family home. The pilot agreement being introduced tonight has also been under discussion for some time. And if the same terms of the pilot granted to Teaneck Urban Renewal at Alfred Avenue were used here, the township would just earn a little over $7 million over the life of the pilot. But we have scrutinized the financial documents submitted by the developer and negotiated a plan that has a phase-in of conventional property taxes and brings in more than $1.5 million additional revenue from the original pilot being discussed when the new council was sworn in. Thank you, Councilwoman Belcher, for working with me on that. Based on the analysis done for us by NW Financial, we cannot squeeze any more money out from the applicant. We are in the process of renewing every redevelopment designation by the previous council to see what can be done. I see, and everyone can see for themselves, what has happened to Margaret Baker at Alfred Avenue. It happened to her, and we will do whatever we can to make sure it doesn't happen to any other Teaneck resident. It's not the what, but the how. There are tools in the development toolbox to allow us to develop in a way that is consistent with the master plan, be transparent, and for the best interest of all Teaneck residents, and we'll do whatever we can to use those alternatives. This project is far from perfect, but it's a drastic improvement in the reduction in size and benefit to residents and the financial returns to the township, and I will be voting yes. Thank you.
Is there a motion on the floor to approve?
Make the motion.
Mr. Clerk?
Councilman Schwartz.
Yes.
Councilman Belcher.
Yes.
Councilman Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilman Morgan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Abstain.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
And Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
Adopted.
Our next order of business is our introduction of ordinances. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the title of the ordinances into the record?
With pleasure, sir. We have this evening ordinance number 30-2023, establishing the salary ranges and classification of positions for municipal employees in the township. We have ordinance number 31-2023, council amending the township code for Township of Teaneck to enact a new section regulating and establishing certain requirements for short-term rentals and the rental of amenities. We have ordinance number 32-2023, amending section 36-11.2 of Division 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 36 entitled Traffic of the Township Code, adding restricted on-street parking spaces for handicap at 7 Larone Place. We have ordinance number 33-2023, approving a long-term tax exemption and authorizing execution of a financial agreement between the Township of Teaneck and 189 The Plaza Urban Renewal LLC regarding the 189 The Plaza Block 5005 Lot 1.01 6-story 48-unit residential building redevelopment project. Those are all the ordinances, council.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
I'll make the motion to introduce.
Second,
Who was that second? I'm sorry.
me.
You got it, Councilman Schwartz. Councilwoman Belcher.
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yes and all.
Councilman Organ.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes, with an abstention on 33-2023.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes and all.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
All introduced.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make the
So
motion.
moved.
All those in favor, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That concludes our meeting for the evening. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. We appreciate you. Have a peaceful evening.